Welcome back to Story Hustler, Murder Mayhem, PTSD. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Mike.
Like and subscribe, and happy holidays.
Yeah, well, we took a little break for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And we have so much to be thankful for.
But we wanted to do a little recap before the
end of the year.
Ended, yes.
Yeah, our year in review. And off the top, I want to say thank you. We are always talking about the subscribers and and we've now assembled 475.
76 was last I counted,
76. So we are very grateful to the people who have taken this little venture of ours to heart.
Yeah.
And we just want to say thank you to those who have subscribed. And we continue to have plans for bigger and better things with this show.
Yeah, so thank you again for sticking with us. We've gone through ups and downs, and hopefully we're getting better and kind of sound smart.
We did our 50th episode just last time, so we're now at 51. And this we wanted to do, we've had a really active year. We've even made notes because we knew we were going to screw things up and forget stuff.
Always.
But 2023 has been very busy.
It has been very busy, and it's been very fun. And a lot of big family events and a lot of professional events. So we're grateful for all of this, and we're grateful that we sort of had found a path. I think found an avenue that we felt like we could contribute to a discussion of importance. And going off that, we wanted to name a couple of people that we thought were pretty heroic this past year.
Oh, yeah. Should we do our heroes and zeros off the top?
Start off with that, and it has to do with the story we've been covering almost all year, this year, yes.
They got pulled into it in 2022. So.
So we wanted to give our hero nod to Elizabeth Roundy, Dan and Maxine Jessup. They are both families that have suffered at the hands of Warren Jeffs and have had children children gone missing since the revelation that Warren put out a year and a half ago. Yeah, not run away. It is very much coerced, but we just wanted to give our shout out to them, Dan and Maxine Jessup and Elizabeth Roundy. They have been at the forefront of this battle, trying to advocate for kids and other families that have had kids go missing. So.
Yeah, and I think I could just add to that. I would say that Dan and Maxine and Elizabeth Roundy represent a number of families. And I hope that this is a salute to all of them, because if you've been following our sort of ramblings of the past, the thing that really we focused on more than anything this past year was what happened in the wake of Warren Jeffs issuing a revelation from his Texas prison cell about rounding up the girls and starting up again the celestial plural marriages. And as soon as that happened,
a year and a half ago,
I think my shit meter detector immediately went off. This is a bad thing. And, when I think you were sensitive to that too. And in short order, we started to get these stories of families missing children who had either been coerced, spirited back, or outright kidnapped back into the FLDS community. And much of our year,
has revolved around that story. And we went up and covered the news conference up in Utah,
where they had the other families that we want to acknowledge.
That are basically suffering through what Dan, Maxine, and Elizabeth all went through and are still going through. Yeah,
and so that's something we're going to continue to, as we've said over and over again, trying to connect the dots. Because if I have any role in this, and just doing this for as long as I have, and we've discussed it, it's sort of putting this in some sort of historical context, because these events that when these guys get in trouble or they make the headlines, it seems like a one-off. It's happened here, these weird cats. But, it's part of a history that dates back for generations.
The prophet isn't behind bars for raping two underage girls, so I don't understand why he still has all the power and reign over this community.
Seems to be running this place, this operation like the mob boss that he is, and unfettered by the walls and bars of that Texas prison cell. He seems to do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah,
in terms of communicating with his faithful. So
he would be on our 2023 no-fly list, opposite of those lovely families we've covered.
Yeah, and so those are sort of our heroes that we've talked about over the course of this year. But we also have some zeros, and it really all stems around what I found just to be an utterly heartbreaking case.
Yeah, the case of Heber Jeffs that we've also been covering. For a quick synopsis of that, because we always ramble, but Heber kidnapped his niece and took her across state lines after the revelation from Warren came out. Obviously, connecting the dots, we think it's in relation to the revelation, gather up the girls, we're going to start the marriages. Yeah, it's a sex trafficking ring, if you will. But he takes her to North Dakota, he gets busted, and he has to return the girl, and they're starting to connect the dots that this is a Warren Jeffs issue too, like all of the history with that. And they seem to be connecting the dots in court and saying the right things. And then all of a sudden they kind of flip the script and they're like, well, he was such a nice uncle. He took her in, he raised her, they did the best for her and gave him custodial interference and was like, well, you're good.
Yeah, it was such a disheartening situation because bear in mind, the story of Dan and Maxine had sort of made the headlines, and some of the these concerns about missing children, and then suddenly you have Warren Jeffs' nephew, this knucklehead named Heber Jeffs, absconds with this child, a little girl, and takes her to the near the Canadian border where they bust him. And as soon as they bust him, we're applauding. Oh my goodness, this is great. This is exactly the kind of criminal activity we're talking about. Now you have this case that completely exposes this conspiracy and trafficking, as you say, Ring. And the prosecutor in Utah seemed to know that. The judge seemed to know that. His smarmy attorney from Salt Lake City, he got paid a lot of money to get him off. And basically, they take him into court and they're going to charge this moron with kidnapping. Long story short, jump ahead. The judge talks tough. Marvin Bagley, he's on our zeros list. Scott Burns, the county prosecutor in Paiute County, talked a tough game and completely caved. And then Steve Burton, the little attorney from Salt Lake City, he went down and bore his testimony in court. Made me want to puke. And at the end of the day, they give Heber a slap on the wrist. No kidnapping charges. They dumb it down to custodial interference. And if he keeps his nose clean for 18 months, it gets expunged, wiped away from his record.
Never happened.
So our families are really the heroes.
Always. It's always the women and children, and Dan and Maxine and Elizabeth.
And that obscenity in court points up the zeros. Lawyers who get paid a lot of money, prosecutors who talk tough, judges who think they know everything in the world, and they drop the ball.
Yeah.
So that's
that's our quick synopsis. Yeah. We'll stop ranting about that because we have a ton of episodes on it. So.
Yeah. What else? Yeah. Please.
What else? We did the Tale of Two Colts episode where we kind of talked about, again, Warren Jeffs. We always talk about Warren Jeffs.
But and also the revelation and the trafficking.
Yeah, but Sam Bateman is a renegade prophet, as we've labeled him, and he's kind of run off and tried to be the Warren Jeffs of a new community and is in jail right now.
I was waiting trial.
Yeah, waiting trial. So that will happen this spring.
And all kinds of just, as you would expect, just pervy, child abusive kind of charges leveled against this guy who amassed himself a little following of about 30 people.
Yeah.
Came down and insisted on meeting with me in a park just around the corner.
The wives serenaded you with their hands.
His ladies serenaded me. And we're going to continue to follow Sam, but that trial, for whatever reason, well, I know the reason, he has insisted on
representing himself
in court. And so that has clearly delayed that trial. I think the first next hearing is
in the spring.
I think it's in March.
Yeah.
So so this trial is going to happen, but we're definitely on Sam's case. And we are going to continue to monitor our dear friend, Sam Bateman.
Well, then, now getting off of the Warren Jeffs.
Again, still in calendar.
Although, we did win an Emmy for that.
Oh yeah,
yes,
that's
we
the one.
Talked about that.
Yeah, well, and that's just another nice addition. That's some nice, exciting things have happened. We won the Emmy.
Yes, for those specials you did at Arizona's Family 3 and 5 a year and a half ago.
Yeah, Sex, Teens, and God, a 2-part series, sort of sounding the alarm on Warren's revelation and the sudden disappearance.
What we've been talking about.
Children, yeah. So that, and then just this last week, you got...
yes, I officially graduated.
Got your, finished your master's degree with distinctions.
Yes, so that was exciting.
Now that you're a master's, I am going to look to you for all kinds of guidance here in the media. But,
I hope I can steer you right.
Please.
But before that, we also went to Europe and did that fun trip.
Yeah, and we did a podcast, I think, on our exploits.
Yeah, we did one in Belgium and in Newcastle.
Yes, we did, yeah.
So that was a great trip.
Then you had just finished up your coursework, and we thought we should take a little time to sightsee.
Yeah.
And sort of...
before I did my big project.
Your dissertation this past summer, which was interesting. But and went to some wonderful places, had a terrific time in Amsterdam. If you ever want to just go and party and have fun.
And get lost in the canals, that's a great place
city.
to go.
And then Belgium was an eye-opener. Never been there before. We got to stay at my brother and his wife's beautiful apartment. And that was terrific.
And then Paris.
Paris
is always lovely. You can't go wrong. And London.
Yeah.
It was just a whirlwind of a trip. It was great.
So that was our sort of self-indulgent time, and it was fun.
Then we came back here. I moved back home, and
lots of stuff happened.
Yeah, the baby Gabriel doc dropped,
which was so interesting. I thought that first of all, I think that they did a wonderful job with that.
Yeah,
I get asked to be involved with these periodically, and hopefully, and I hope try to get onto ones that are worthwhile. And I just thought that guy who put the Baby Gabriel documentary, Where is Baby Gabriel, did a terrific job, and certainly sort of reignited interest in that story, because the bottom line is we have a little kid who's still may have been killed by his mother, may be
out there,
taken by someone, and who knows.
Yeah, that is a very sad story. So,
but I'm glad that it's got some exposure, and I know that is one of the episodes on our channel that gets some of the highest traffic.
Yeah,
a lot of people have watched that one, and
a lot of people are still interested.
And I'm grateful. Watch that and watch the doc. I'm sure you can still find it on cable somewhere.
Yeah. So that was done, and then the ABC Vanished episode on the missing children specifically.
We just can't get out of that.
We can't. Yeah, we're always talking about the polygamists.
ABC dropped a doc on the very subject that we had been talking about, the missing children. They called it Vanished. And they went and talked to some of the same families that we had been talking to that were at the news conference down in Cedar City. Boy, that was emotional.
Very.
My God.
That was very sad.
And I'm glad that you got a chance to see this, get involved in this firsthand. To know the story, you have to sort of look in the parents' eyes to get the depth of it.
It's awful what they've been through.
Yeah.
So if we can help spread the word, that's, again, our whole purpose here, and just get people talking about this, because it kind of sends these guys underground and seems to halt their pedophilia.
Just talking to one of the people who worked on that Keep Sweet, and saying that, really, after all this time, the only thing that I'm convinced of, these guys are never going to stop doing this. But they are, the only way to sort of slow it down is the light of day. And I think that, really, we talked about that group of children that went missing initially. But after the news conference, and after this got some publicity, and after ABC did their thing, I haven't heard about another child that was breaking in the news, a story of a child. So I think it testifies to our belief that really these guys are going to go hide in some far off corner somewhere, whether it's down in Texas or up by the Canadian borders, to do what they do, because that's what that's what their gravitational pull is. But it slows them down. And you have fewer marriages and much less trafficking if you're on them with the light of day.
Maybe the Sam Bateman and all the publicity he seems to be stirring up will also kind of scare them, because that's going to stir the pot and conversation on polygamy again.
Well, and it should.
Pretty connected.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how much coverage, because I think this Bateman thing is fascinating. I know he's gotten some coverage, and I'm sure that when it goes to federal court, it'll get some other eyeballs. But
well, he's a showman, so it should be interesting to see what happens in the court.
That's why I relish that story, because he's just such a flamboyant sort of
he needed to meet the Queen of England as
narcissistic showman.
He missed that.
Driving around in his Bentleys and stuff. So that's a story that I really think we're going to stay on.
Yeah, and I hope they do it justice if everything that they're uncovering is true.
Yeah, and totally shifting gears on another topic that just sort of came out of nowhere.
Oh, yes, the Michael Turney trial. We covered that in the summer, so I think July.
Yeah, and boy, that was interesting.
Yeah, that was also a really sad ending. We do nothing but sad stories, I'm starting to realize.
Well, that's why I always used to come home after being at a crime scene all day and tell your mother another happy story.
Yes. Well, this one is a very sad story.
Very sad story.
A young woman went missing in the early 2000s and has never been seen again. Alyssa Turney. No one knows what happened. There's speculation that her stepfather, Michael Turney, killed her.
He was so charged. But
yeah, and there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that was never brought into the courtroom, and the judge just basically said after a few days of trial that there was not enough evidence and
no mas.
Throw it away.
Yeah, it was really stunning.
It was.
And I mean, the fact it's an old case, and we go into this for a whole episode as we have done. But it was an old case of a missing teenage girl who went missing under the most suspicious of circumstances. Her stepfather was always was thought to have something involved in this. And they finally
spying on her, just weird things, making her sign contracts, and we get into all that in our old episodes.
For some reason, the state decided to resurrect this case, and another person we should give admiration to is Sarah Turney.
She's basically the reason this got brought back into the realm of conversation, because it was a cold case that everyone kind of forgot about.
It certainly was no fault of hers that it didn't get convicted, because they took it to court. She spoke up for her sister.
She made a podcast
and really sounded beat the drum on this. And the state said, okay, the county decided to prosecute. It was a difficult case, and again, the faults were in the early stages of how I think law enforcement, they just sort of dropped the ball on this, and it fell through the cracks. But an eye-opening case, and then to see a judge just say after the state's case, you don't have enough, and he's free. Yeah. ABC did another doc on that, and I did a little cameo in that on the Turney case. Interesting doc. But is watching Michael Turney in front of a camera, it's another one of those examples of I'm always looking for bad dads in stories, good dads and bad dads. Not such a good dad.
Oh, speaking of another bad dad, one we can't forget to mention, our tribute to our dear friend Dave.
Another one of those episodes that has gotten more traction than almost any others.
As it should. His story was incredible, sad, heroic. This is Dave. Our dear friend, he passed away in 2018.
He's with
MJ.
He's with a basketball player.
Dave's a celeb.
He's just a wonderful guy.
And that
passed away a few years ago.
Lifted painting.
Yeah, up there that you probably can't see.
We'll post these in there.
But the reason, we've been friends with, we're friends with Dave for many years, and are friends with his beautiful and wonderful mother, Marie. But the reason this story came back on the radar
is because, speaking of bad dads,
right?
Charles Rothenberg, Dave's father, this is a notorious story, but kidnapped Dave when he was a young child, 6 years old, and took him across country from Brooklyn to LA with the hopes of going to Disneyland. And when Dave was asleep in the hotel room, Charles doused the hotel room in gasoline and lit it on fire and left Dave to burn to death. Dave miraculously survived and lived to be into his 40s.
Yeah.
sadly passed away due to complications from his injuries a few years ago. But it's a very sad story. But Dave was an incredible human being.
And we love him, and can't get emotional talking about him. But again, the reason this came up is because that man, Charles Rothenberg, his biological father, if you can call him that, the guy who doused Dave in kerosene and set him aflame. And Dave should have died, but Dave was such a strong spirit. He didn't, and went on to lead an extraordinary life. But Charles has been locked up for all these many years.
He actually got out from 7 years after that crime, but was locked up because of other things.
He's a bad dude. He only spent 7 years for
what he did to Dave.
Attempting to murder his son in the most heinous way you can imagine. And but got out again, got in trouble again, now back in the joint, and is now a feeble old man. And Dave's mom was going to speak at his parole hearing and asked me to say something at it. And so I got to sort of get involved in this Zoom call with Charles Rothenberg there. And he now goes by Charlie Charles, doesn't want the infamousy that is associated with his name. Did I say that word right? How infamous.
Said it 3 different ways.
Excuse me, somewhere in there I got it right. But the notoriety, just such a horrible case. So Charles has changed his name, and he's out for parole, and Marie and I both spoke, and it was stunning for me to see this guy who had done this to my friend, and I'm sure I know it was difficult on Marie, but he didn't get parole. Charlie's still behind bars. I think that's a victory, because he's I think a very unstable and obviously dangerous man, even as an old fellow. But so that was another one of the sort of the moments, and that's worth going back if people haven't seen that episode. I think that we talk more about Dave and his life.
Yeah, he was wonderful. He really was an incredible soul. But we haven't done a story on this yet, but we did go to the hearing of Christy Parker.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
And her daughter, Cassie Parker. Speaking of seeing monsters in real life.
Yeah, we're hoping to get Christy. She's been a friend for 25 years, and the story that you got us acquainted. Story. But, so that's down the road. But
hopefully we'll bring a happy story.
Yeah, we got to get some happy stories. What else have we done this year?
I think we hit all.
We've exhausted all our bullet points. Yeah.
So that was our year in review.
Yeah.
If you've stuck with us this far, thank you, and like and subscribe if you haven't already.
And thank you.
And thank you,
our
genuinely.
Subscribers. We're very grateful. And we've done a couple of other people's podcasts just in closing. Recently, I sat down with the legendary Kevin Ray on his show, and he's such a terrific guy.
He is. Oh, he's the best Suns commentator too. We love him.
I think this
Eddie J, K Ray, Tom Leander, Tom Chambers, and Sophie. It's a great team.
Our dear friend, the legend, and Mars Drysdale. I think the Suns fans are well served. The team may be up and down.
You don't need to get into the Suns. You're going to be sad.
But the broadcast team. And so anyhow, we had an interview with K Ray on his show, and he's just a great guy.
Yeah.
And then we sat down with our friend Kathy Blaze.
Desertwood Days
with Kathy Blaze. Yeah, I love that name.
It's got a ring to it.
Yeah, and so then that should be dropping soon. We just talked about stuff we've been doing, and she's a charming, lovely lady.
Yeah.
But every time I go do somebody else's show, I sort of think, we got to spit things out.
I know.
Do it better than we do. But
I know, but it's fine. Hopefully.
This is still a little just pa and daughter kind of thing.
Yeah, we're working on it. So suggestions, questions, comments, concerns.
And thanks.
Yeah, and thanks. And happy holidays.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever.
Whatever you celebrate, happy holidays.
Festivus for the rest of us, everything else.
Yeah. So, Story Hustler, Murder Mayhem, PTSD. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Mike.
Goodbye.